if you go back to Europe in 1400, the structure of the society in Europe was different. At that time, it was a three-class society in Europe. You had the peasants, the farmers, then you had the feudalists, the rulers and the landlords. The peasants were living by their sweat. They would grow crops, they would look after sheep and so on. Then the feudalists would take rent from the peasants. Rent meaning they take part of the produce. The peasant produces 100 bags, and maybe the landlord takes 30 as rent. So one by sweating, the other one by rent. That's how they live. That was the structure of the society. Then the third group that time was artisans in Europe. The blacksmith, the carpenters, the ones who are doing ceramics, the pottery. Those were now depending on skills of their hands. So you have one group depending on agriculture through their sweat, another one depending on rent. Rent in Uganda we call it obsuru. Sijui kwa Kiswahili rent wanahitaji rent kwa Kiswahili. Kodi. A code is tax. Rent. I've forgotten the word. Ushuru. Ushuru ni Swahili. Ushuru ni Swahili. I thought it was Uganda. So, now that is Europe in 1400. Then you come 1789, the time of the French Revolution. There, the European society has metamorphosed. You now find not 3 classes, but 4 classes. That's why it is important to study those histories of Europe, because they are a good laboratory. You now find 3 classes, 4. One is the feudalists. They are still there. They are still taking rent from the farmers. Then you have the peasants. They are still there. But now you have 2 new classes which never existed before. And these are the middle class. The middle class, in French they call them the bourgeoisie. You must have heard of those terms. The bourgeoisie meaning the middle class. These people never existed before in human history. And who is a bourgeoisie? There are different layers, but the main one who is a new phenomenon in society, is somebody who lives on profit. Profit. And the profit is the difference in 1956, when I was in primary 4, before you people, before your parents were born. I was told that profit is the difference between the buying price for them. They were not manufacturing, so they were not using the input cost. No. They were saying profit is between the buying price and the selling price. If you buy something at 10 shillings and you sell it at 15, the profit is 5 shillings. That is for trading. But for manufacturing, it is the input cost, the cost you use for the inputs, and then the price you sell at after production. So that's profit now. So the other problems of Europe of having it, you stay here, you pay me rent, didn't arise because you didn't have enough people. Nchi ilikuwa pori tu, misitu. So although there were feudalists, they were really not feudalists like the ones of Europe of taking rent, but they could take your free labor. You could go and work for the chief for nothing. They don't pay you. You could look after his cows. For instance, here, we had a system where I, as a poor person, I could, they call it okshumba. Okshumba, you go to the chief, you look after his cows, he gives you food. He gives you food and so there was some clientship, but not the other monetary one of ushuru. It was to, like, you work for me, I pay you in kind. Not pay, but support you, feed you and your family. So you still had the same groups. You had the feudalists, you had these peasants, although in a modified way, and you also had artisans. Artisans were there, blacksmith, people who were making like those Wakambas, those things which the Wakambas make, those wood carvings. Those are they are artisans. Now, but if you looked at Uganda at independence, 1962, the society actually now had 2 classes, no longer 3. It was now 2. Why? Because when the Europeans came, they killed the artisan class. Because the artisan class was making hoes, making pangas, making plates, wooden plates, making. Now, when the colonialism came, all those products which were being made by the artisans were now being imported from the factories in Europe. So the artisan class had either died or shrunk, almost disappeared. So you had now, and the feudal class had of course also been overthrown. So the feudalists were not there, the artisans were not there. The only people there were the peasants, with a few educated people, some few clerks, interpreters for the colonial. So therefore, actually, society in Africa had socially regressed. It had not even stagnated. It had actually become less developed than when the Europeans first came here, because you now had only peasants. Here in the case of Uganda, we had at independence, there was some small island of economy, what we call enclave economy, an economy of a small island of modernity surrounded by a sea of backwardness. Now the small island of economy, that's why there was some little issue of money. In the case of Uganda, at independence, it was called the economy of the 3 C's and the 3 T's. The 3 C's were coffee, copper, and cotton. And then the 3 T's were tobacco, tourism, and tea. But according to the census of 1969, which was some years after independence, only 4% of the people were in this small island of the cash crop. I think the word they were using was cash crop economy. The rest of the people, in the case of Uganda, were in what they call subsistence economy. Kutumikia tumbo peke yake. You produce only for eating. No money. That's the structure we had. So on the one hand, you had a structural distortion of the society. Mainly peasants. Then a smaller portion of them in the money economy, in the 3 C's, 3 T's. The rest, just huko polini. Like when I was going to the university I would go by bus through Kenya to Dar es Salaam, to Tanzania. You could see those Maasai outside the money economy. Walikuwa hahusiana na uchumi ya pesa. With their mikuki, with their what, with wanajipaka nani, red ochre, you know, all those Kajiado, those BC, what, hawana habari na economy ya pesa. It has changed a bit when I fly over. I see now that I think that somehow they are involved. So for Kenya, but of course we had people like the Turkanas here. You could see they were definitely not part of the money economy. The ones in the central province, those were involved with, I think, with the coffee, with the. So you can analyze, you can go back and analyze the structure of the society of Kenya at that time. Although Kenya has some disadvantages, which are advantages, because I think only 18% of Kenya is arable or something like that. There's some figure there, the one where the land is arable. It's a bit smaller than Uganda here. And the rest of the land is semi-arid. Now, that makes people wake up. When you have that pressure of small land for agriculture. Hapa Uganda, watu wamelala. Because here a fool can survive here, you don't have to be very clever. wajinga wote hawafi hapo, because the land is so rich. It's only now that they are beginning to wake up because the land is becoming smaller and smaller. Otherwise, kunywa pombe tu, just sleeping, eating. So, by independence, you can analyze how Kenya was, but when I was passing through, I could see some of the areas which had joined the money economy, like Central Province. Then, of course, you had the European farmers, the Kerichos, the Kericho tea, and then Rift Valley, Nakuru, Naivasha. Our tribe here, the Waluyas, it was not clear to me where they I didn't see the cash crops they were doing there that time, 1967, because I didn't see coffee there. I didn't see those days. There was a small factory for paper at Webuye. At Webuye, there was a small factory for paper. So, but these those fellows, they were Bukusu, the what? When I was infiltrating into Mount Elgon, I passed when I was fighting Idi Amin. Later, in the 70s, through Cheptais, Chepkube, I used to walk through all those places. Irrigaries, I'm very sorry to. I didn't remember that they were doing commercial agriculture. I don't think so. I don't remember that. So that's what now you get at independence. Like in the case of Kenya, you get a society which has five centuries. Because you remember when the Europeans started coming to Africa, it started 1453 when the if you are Christians, I suspect there are some Christians here. If you are Christians, you would have read the book of the Acts of the Apostles. St. Paul was making the journeys of St. Paul. St. Paul was going through a country known as Asia Minor in the Bible. And those letters he was writing, the epistles to the Galatians, to to Ephesus, the Ephesians. Now, if you go on the ground now, those people are no longer there. There is now a new country known as Turkey. And that group, the Turkish, captured that area in 1453. So when they captured Constantinople, they blocked the land route of the Europeans from Europe to Asia, to China. That's when the Europeans started looking for another route now to go to the east. That's how Africa's problem started. Africa had its internal weaknesses with our stupid kings and all that, and witch doctors, and just here making a fool of themselves. But when they were alone, they could stay like that. But the problem came when these new people came, started looking for the route to the east. By 1472, they had got out to where Sierra Leone is now. By 1482, a man called Diego Cama got to where Angola is by 1487. It didn't take long. 1453. By 1487, a man called Bartholomew Diaz got to Cape of Good Hope. That's when he called it Cape of Good Hope. The hope that now they may go around the big continent of Africa. And then 1498, Vasco da Gama went around South Africa, landed on Christmas Day at Natal. That's why Natal is called Natal. Natal in Latin means to be born. Natalis, to be born. So Vasco da Gama got to Natal in Christmas Day 1498. My tribe has been keeping cows for the last 7,000 years, but they were not regarding milk as a cash product. They were saying milk is just for drinking, for food at home. Subsistence. It's not commercial. And what is commercial milk? Commercial milk, first of all, we were drinking a bit of KCC milk from Kenya. That was commercial. But our milk here was not commercial. But the one of Kenya Creameries, which came after independence, not before. I started drinking it in 1964. That's when it started coming here. But before that, we were drinking milk from New Zealand, condensed milk, tinned milk. From New Zealand, from Switzerland. Here Wanyankole wanachunga ngombe, lakini ngombe zao hazihusiani na soko la maziwa hapa. Wako na ngombe na maziwa, lakini they don't sell the milk to the town. The town is drinking milk from New Zealand, then a little bit from Kenya. Then by the time we came in the government, they were bringing powdered milk from Denmark, and then they put in water of Lake Victoria and stamp Uganda Dairy Corporation. The dairy there was water. The Ugandan Dairy Corporation was water. So we said no. Maziwa yanaweza kuleta pesa. Maziwa can be a cash product. Maize we were producing maize just for eating on the cob. To roast on the roadside. And we would import maize meal from Kenya. Yes, hii watu merara. So production of maize went from 200,000, I think, tons or something like that a year to now 5 million tons. So you find that maize has become a cash crop. It's no longer just for eating. Then you go to things like palm oil. You got things like cassava. Cassava can be a big cash crop. Producing unga, producing starch, producing. So we have diversified. Beef. We have diversified. But also transformation, bringing in new industries which never existed before. The one different quality of industries, like the design and fabrication of vehicles, electric vehicles, the producing Our people are now producing these electric vehicles, electric buses, electric cars. The electric car is called Kira. Kira is the name for the Nile. What we call the Nile here is Kira. Even in South Sudan, that's why you hear somebody called General Salva Kiir. That's the name of Kiir is Nile in South Sudan, in their language of. But for us here, we also call it Kira. We don't know how we came to link with the Dinkas to use the same word for the Nile. So that now there is minimum recovery, there is expansion, there is diversification of mainly agro-based industries, but also transforming to knowledge and skills-based industries. Because when you come to automobiles, here you are talking of knowledge, you are talking of skills, different types of skills. Then you have the pathogenic economy. Africans have been dying from diseases since time immemorial. Now other people also die, but the difference is that for them they also make money out of dying. They make money out of being sick by making medicine, by making vaccines. But Africans have just been here. We just die democratically until they bring drugs from outside, they bring vaccines. So we have told our people, you people, mtalala mpaka lini? Haya maradhi ni shida, lakini vile ni fursa. Make medicine to deal with maradhi, make nani ya kuchanja. So we are really very much active on that front of pharmaceuticals and vaccines and diagnostics and sanitizers. Like when Corona started, apparently Uganda was the only country in East Africa that was making sanitizers. And this is because Ugandans are fond of alcohol. Wanakunywa pombe sana. Now, apparently there's some advantage in drinking alcohol, because the alcohol they are always drinking is from bananas. Then they make it into what they call Uganda waraji. Uganda waraji is a gin from the local beer which they drink from bananas called amarwa. Even these Luyas talk of wamarwa or what? Marwa means alcohol there in Luya. Amarwa, that's what we call it in our language. But that's the traditional one, the one of bananas. Now when you distill it more, it becomes this waraji, which is I hear something percent. Is it 40% or something? Now when Corona came, the same alcohol which is burning the livers of the Ugandans, if you distill it a bit more, it will burn all the viruses. So very quickly we become big producers of sanitizers. So that's now another category of industries. The sanitizers, diagnostics, pharmaceuticals, vaccines. So now this is the economy which we are now using to transform the society. But it has not been easy, because here in Uganda, because of this Uganda is very, very easy to live here. All fools can survive here. You don't have to be clever. Just stay and eat. Go and stay at your brother's place. What are you coming to do? I've come to see you. See me for what? He's just coming to eat free things. So but we are struggling with them until 2013. 68% of the homesteads. I've told you that in 1969, the people who were in the money economy were only 4%. Wengine wote walikuwa kwenye ile ya kutumikia tumbo peke yako. But up to 2013, 68% of the people were still in the what they call subsistence agriculture, subsistence life, only working for the stomach. Kutumikia tumbo peke yake. This is very dangerous. Only 32% of the population were working for money. In the four sectors, the one of commercial agriculture, industry, services, and ICT. So, and yet all these people have land, have what? So we had actually to involve the army. You must have heard of what we call Operation Wealth Creation. Where the army had to involve the army would take planting materials and beg these people, please, you plant in your garden. The garden is his, the family is his, but we are begging him to plant so that he can look after his family. The army was involved in taking free seedlings. That's how actually the coffee has gone up. This 8 million bags came from about 3 million. But when these people were given free seedlings, and now some of them have come up. So I hear now the people outside the money economy are now 39%. For the first time, there are more people in the money economy than in the subsistence economy. The one in the money economy are now 61%. But as we try to give them seedlings, we also struggle with another issue, the one of Echibaro. Because you see, one day I was there in Mombasa with Mzee Moi. We saw those people who grow saiso. So I was trying to ask them, but these people who grow saiso, how much do they grow? Because like here, even in the colonial times, the few people who were in the money economy were there without a sabu. Walikuwa wanashughulika bila hesabu to know whether it is good for the family or not. I will take an example here. Like in some of the areas, like Bugisu, those areas of Uganda, this side, the Bateso, our Tesos, they have already fragmented the land, family land, because of inheritance. When somebody dies, he has got 6 acres, yuko na watoto 6, wanaume. What was 6 acres now becomes 1 acre, 1 acre, 1 acre, 1 acre. So then the colonial government comes, or even these independence governments, but which don't really care about the people. They say, mulime pamba. Okay, but if I have got 1 acre of land, or 2 acres like in West Nile, kulima tobacco, I have got only 2 acres. 1 acre I may put cassava for the food for the family. So I remain with only 1 acre for money making. Now, if I put tobacco, how much will I get? Whatever you do, tobacco, we found that you cannot, whatever you do, you cannot get more than 800,000 shillings, which is like, I don't know how many, maybe $200 or something like that a year. Now, how would this family get out of poverty with $200 in a year? How? So that's why we now struggle with them. And there are a lot of confusion. Churches wanakuja wanasema mambo yao, then NGOs confusing them so that they don't even concentrate on our message of so we eventually we have been struggling to say, look here, we need a 4 acres model. If you have got 4 acres and less, and we need to make a distinction between what we call intensive agriculture and extensive agriculture. Intensive agriculture is the type of agriculture which you can do in a small area but get good returns, good money. And then is extensive agriculture where you can grow on a big scale, even if you are getting smaller per acre, but because of size you will get good money. It's so difficult to explain to these people. With leaders who don't know anything, they just want to lead. Somebody comes and say, mfanye kwa bidii. Bidii how? Exactly how? Talking, sweating, what? He's sweating with nothing. So the people are not guided at all, these peasants. But now we have been able to struggle with them and say, look here, for you of 4 acres or less, we recommend 7 activities. 1 acre under coffee, 1 acre under fruits like mangoes, oranges, pineapples. If you are in a cold area like Mount Elgon, like Renzori, you can even grow apples, which bring a lot of money. Grapes. So 2nd acre is fruits. 3rd acre is pasture for dairy cows. Zero grazing in the. They don't go out, not free range. They don't go to. You cut grass for them and feed them. Then the 4th acre, you put food crop for the family. Maybe cassava, maybe Irish potatoes, maybe bananas. And then in the backyard you put poultry for eggs, because that doesn't need a big area. Then in the backyard you can also put pigs if you are not a Muslim, or a traditional Mnyankole, because Mnyankole don't eat pigs. But these ones in the town here are the ones who eat pigs. I've seen them eating pigs here in the town. Then near the swamps, you can do fish farming. That fish farming can bring quite a bit of money in a small area. So these are the 7 activities we are recommending for these people. The ones of 4 acres or less. Now, for the ones with bigger land, then there are the ones who can grow for us tea. Tea needs more land than if you do it in 1 acre, you are not going to get much. They can go for tea. They can go for maize. Even maize needs more land. They can go for sugarcane. They can go for ranching. They can go for cotton. Cotton needs more land. Because we need those products also. We need maize, we need cotton, we need what? Which can be done by people who have got bigger land. Now, so in these two ways, this is one way of changing the people. The society, because remember the society, at independence, they were only peasants. Meaning they were farmers with no money. The thing now, how do you make them into a middle class? You make them a middle class through joining the money economy, but doing it with what we call in our language a kibaro, which means a sabu. A sabu unapima shughuli gani inaweza kumletea pesa kiasi kulingana na ukubwa wa ardhi yake. The enterprise is guided by the size of the family land. Because if you make them grow low value crops on a small scale, they will never get out of poverty. They will never get out of poverty. So this is one route of changing the society.